Linda Parker stood at the kitchen counter, stirring her coffee and watching the morning news on her tablet. The reporter was talking about another trade agreement between Earth and some alien species she couldn't pronounce. She didn't really care about galactic politics. She had more important things to worry about, like making sure her 16-year-old son, Jake, remembered to pack his lunch for the school trip today. "Jake, you ready?" she called upstairs. "The shuttle leaves in 20 minutes. "Almost done, Mom," came the muffled reply from his bedroom. Linda shook her head and smiled. Jake was excited about visiting Harmony Point, the big orbital trading station that circled Earth. His class would spend 3 days learning about interspecies commerce and cultural exchange. It sounded boring to Linda, but Jake loved meeting aliens and learning about their different worlds. She worked as an engineer at the Denver Colony mining facility, fixing broken equipment and solving problems that nobody else wanted to deal with. It was good work, steady pay, and it let her take care of Jake after his father died 5 years ago in a mining accident. Life wasn't easy, but they managed. Jake came down the stairs carrying his backpack, his brown hair messy as always. He looked just like his father at that age, tall and lanky with curious eyes that always seemed to be looking for the next adventure. "Got everything?" Linda asked, checking his bag. "Clean clothes, toothbrush, that translator device the school gave you?" "Yes, Mom. Stop worrying. It's just 3 days." She hugged him tight, maybe a little too tight. "I know. I just want you to be careful up there. Stay with your group. Don't wander off, and if any of those aliens try to sell you something weird, just say no." Jake laughed. "Mom, they're not going to hurt me. This is an official Federation station. There are rules and security and everything." Linda walked him to the shuttle stop and watched as he joined his classmates. Mrs. Chun, their teacher, was checking names on her list while trying to keep 20 excited teenagers from running around. Linda waved goodbye as the shuttle lifted off, carrying her son up to the stars. 3 days later, she was supposed to pick Jake up at the same shuttle stop. She arrived early, coffee in hand, ready to hear all about his adventures. The shuttle landed right on time, and she watched the students come down the ramp. But Jake wasn't with them. Linda walked over to Mrs. Chun, who was helping students find their parents. "Where's Jake?" she asked. Mrs. Chun looked confused. "Jake Parker? He should be right behind the others. Let me check my list." She flipped through her papers, frowning. "That's strange. He was with us yesterday at the Cultural Center." "What do you mean yesterday?" Linda's voice got sharp. "Where is he now?" "I'm not sure. Let me contact the station security." Linda waited while Mrs. Chun made calls. Other parents were leaving with their children, laughing and talking about the trip. Linda stood alone, her coffee getting cold, watching. The empty shuttle dot. After an hour of phone calls and confused conversations, Mrs. Chun came back looking worried. "The station security says 4 students from our group didn't make it to the shuttle. Jake, Amy Wilson, Carlos Martinez, and Peter Johnson. They think the boys might have wandered off exploring and lost track of time." Lost track of time? Linda couldn't believe what she was hearing. "They're 16, not 6. And where's Amy?" "The security chief, a Zentari named Vextok, says this happens sometimes with human students. They get curious and explore areas they shouldn't. He's sure they'll turn up soon." Linda felt anger building in her chest. "Take me to this station. Now." 2 hours later, Linda was standing in the security office on Harmony Point, facing a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms and eyes that looked like black marbles. Vextok spoke in a flat, emotionless voice through his translator device. "Human, female Parker. Your offspring and 3 others violated station boundaries. They entered restricted commercial zones without proper documentation. This is common behavior for your species. They will return when they become hungry or bored. It's been over 12 hours, Linda said, trying to stay calm. Where exactly did they go? Commercial District 7. Many vendors, many distractions. Young humans often become confused by the variety of alien goods and services. We have posted warnings, but your species ignores them. Linda had dealt with enough bureaucrats in her work to recognize when someone was giving her the runaround. I want to see this district myself. Impossible. You lack proper commercial permits. Also, your emotional state suggests potential for violence. Station regulations prohibit unstable individuals in commercial zones. Unstable? Linda's voice rose. My son is missing and you're calling me unstable? Vextok's forearms gestured dismissively. Human parental attachment creates irrational behavior. File proper missing person documentation. Return in 30 Earth. Rotations for status update. 30 days? You want me to wait 30 days while my son is missing? Standard protocol for Class C species. Your Federation representative can explain the process. Linda found the Federation office 3 levels down from security. The representative was a Vorthik, looking like a cross between a lizard and a businessman in an expensive suit. His name, tag read Kextal, Cultural Liaison. Ah, yes, the missing juveniles, Kextal said before Linda could even speak. Unfortunate situation, but not uncommon. Human youth lack the discipline of more advanced species. They often get distracted by commercial opportunities. Commercial opportunities? What are you talking about? Kextal pulled up a file on his screen. It appears your son and his companions were approached by representatives of the Hegemony Mining Consortium. Legitimate business enterprise. They often recruit young, strong workers for off-world projects. Linda felt the blood drain from her face. Are you telling me my son was kidnapped by alien miners? Not kidnapped, recruited. The hegemony operates under different labor laws than Earth. What you call child labor, they call youth opportunity programs. Very legal in their space. He's 16. Age of majority varies by species and jurisdiction. In hegemony space, any being capable of physical labor can enter into work contracts. Your son likely signed documentation agreeing to transportation and employment. Linda leaned across the desk. Even if that's true, which I doubt, he's still a minor under Earth law. You have to help me get him back. Kextal's reptilian features showed what might have been sympathy. I understand your concern, but humans are junior members of the Federation. You have limited legal standing in interspecies commerce disputes. The proper channels require documentation, hearings, and formal complaints. The process typically takes 6 to 8 months. 6 months? Linda stood up so fast her chair fell over. You expect me to wait 6 months while my son is forced to work in some alien mine? The hegemony maintains acceptable safety standards for worker units. Your offspring will likely survive the experience and return with valuable skills and currency. Linda stared at the alien, trying to process what she was hearing. Her son had been kidnapped and sold into slavery, and nobody seemed to care because of paperwork and jurisdictions and species politics. Where is this mining operation? She asked quietly. I cannot provide that information. Interfering with legitimate hegemony business could create diplomatic incidents. Linda walked out of the office without saying another word. She took the Mex shuttle back to Earth and went straight to her garage. Her husband's old cargo hauler, the Blue Monday, sat under a dusty tarp. She hadn't flown it since he died, but she remembered how. She also remembered the mining explosives stored in the back of her work truck. If the Federation wouldn't help her get Jake back, she'd do it herself. She was his mother, and nobody was going to stop her from bringing her son home. The Blue Monday shook as it dropped out of hyperspace near the Tau City system. Linda gripped the controls, her knuckles white from tension. She hadn't piloted a ship this far from Earth since her husband taught her to fly 15 years ago. The navigation computer beeped, showing dozens of asteroids floating in space ahead of her. Somewhere in that rocky maze was the mining operation that had taken her son. Linda activated the ship's scanner and started looking for artificial structures. It didn't take long to find them. The hegemony had built a massive mining station inside, a hollowed-out asteroid with smaller facilities scattered throughout the belt. Ships moved between the rocks like metal insects, carrying ore and supplies. She opened a communication channel. "This is Linda Parker from Earth. I'm looking for my son Jake Parker and 3 other human students. I know they're here." The response came in a harsh, growling voice. "Unknown human vessel, you are in restricted hegemony space. State your business or leave immediately. My business is getting my son back. He was taken from Harmony Point 3 days ago. He's 16 years old and has no business being in a mining operation." There was a long pause. Then a different voice came on the channel, speaking in accented but clear English. "Human female, I am Commander Vexcor of the mining facility Tau. 7. Your spawn is here under legal work contract. He and others volunteered for employment. Go away." Linda felt her anger rise. He's a child. He can't sign work contracts. In hegemony law, any being who can work can contract. Your Earth rules mean nothing here. Leave now or face consequences. I want to see him. I want proof he's okay and signed anything willingly. Impossible. Workers are busy. Productivity must be maintained. Human female, you test my patience. Depart or be removed." Linda looked at the massive mining station ahead of her. Her little cargo ship had no weapons, no shields, nothing that could fight a military facility. But she had something else. She had explosives in her cargo hold and 20 years of experience blowing things up safely in mines. "Fine," she said. "Into the radio, I'll leave. But first, I have a delivery for you." She changed course toward the smaller asteroid, where ships were loading ore. Her scanner showed the facility's weak points, the docking ports, the power relays, the air recycling. Systems. All the things that kept the space station running. Linda had never fought in space before, but she had torn down plenty of unsafe mining structures on Earth. The principles were the same. Find what holds it together, remove those supports carefully, and watch it fall apart. She docked at a cargo port before anyone could stop her. The airlock cycled, and she stepped into a corridor filled with aliens she had never seen before. Most were tall and thin with gray skin and large eyes. They moved slowly, like they were tired or sick. Some had metal collars around their necks. "Hey," Linda called to one of them. "Where are the human workers?" The alien looked at her with fear. In its eyes, human female should not be here. Guards will come. Bad things happen to those who ask questions. Linda realized she was looking at slaves, not workers. The metal collars were control devices. Her anger turned into something colder and more dangerous. She found an access panel and connected her portable scanner to the station's computer system. Her engineering training helped her understand the layout. The main facility was 3 kilometers away, connected by transport tunnels. That's where they would keep the valuable workers like Jake. Linda made her way through the station, avoiding the few guards she saw. Most were busy managing the mining operations and didn't expect a human woman to be wandering around their facility. She found the transport tunnel and followed it to the main asteroid. The central facility was much larger than she expected. Hundreds of beings from dozens of species worked in the mining chambers, cutting ore from the asteroid walls. The air was thick with dust and the sound of drilling equipment. She spotted Jake and a group of workers near the main excavation site. He was operating a plasma cutter under the watch of a tall, lizard-like guard. Even from a distance, Linda could see he was exhausted. His clothes were dirty and torn, and he moved like someone who hadn't slept in days. 3 other humans worked nearby: Amy Wilson, Carlos Martinez, and Peter Johnson from Jake's class. They all looked scared and tired. Amy had a bruise on her. Linda felt her protective instincts take over completely. She had come here to negotiate, to find a peaceful way to get the kids back. But seeing her son treated like a slave changed everything. She made her way back to her ship and opened a cargo hold. Inside were 50 kilograms of industrial mining explosives, the kind used to break up stubborn rock formations. She also had detonators, timing devices, and everything else needed to bring down a mountain, if necessary. Linda began placing small charges throughout the facility's infrastructure. She didn't want to hurt the workers, but she needed to get everyone's attention. She targeted power relays, air recycling units, and the gravity generators that kept everyone's feet on the ground. The first explosion took out the lights in Section C. The second destroyed the main air recycling plant. The third made the artificial gravity flicker on and off, causing aliens to float around in confusion. Emergency alarms started screaming throughout the facility. Over the noise, Linda's voice came through the communication system. She had hacked into their announcement network. Attention Hegemony Mining Facility Tau 7. This is Linda Parker. I placed those explosives, and I have many more. I want to speak to whoever is in charge. I want my son and the other human students released immediately. You have 10 minutes to respond before I blow up something more important. Commander Vexcor's voice came back, filled with rage. Human female, you have committed acts of terrorism against hegemony property. Security forces are coming to eliminate you. Good luck finding me, Linda replied. She had placed herself in the asteroid's mining tunnels, where she knew the layout better than the guards. I've been blowing things up professionally for 20 years. Your security team has probably never dealt with someone who knows how to use explosives properly. She proved her point by collapsing a section of tunnel behind a squad of guards, trapping them but not hurting them. Then she took out the communication relay that connected the facility to the outside universe. Here's what's going to happen, Linda announced over the facility's speakers. You're going to bring all the enslaved workers to the main docking bay. Not just the humans, everyone with those control collars. Then you're going to remove those collars and let them go. Impossible, Vexcor replied. These workers are legally contracted. Releasing them would violate dozens of business agreements. Linda's next explosion took out the main ore processing plant. Millions of credits worth of equipment turned into scrap metal in seconds. How about now? She asked Dot while the hegemony forces tried to hunt her down. Linda continued her systematic destruction of their facility. She avoided areas where workers might be hurt, but everything else was fair game. Power plants, communication arrays, transport systems, she reduced them to junk with surgical precision. The slaves began to realize what was happening. Someone was fighting for them, destroying their prison piece by piece. Some of the bolder ones started helping, showing Linda where the most important systems were located. Jake heard his mother's voice over the speakers and couldn't believe it. She had come alone to an alien mining operation and was tearing it apart to save him. He had always known his mom was tough, but this was incredible. That's my mom, he told Amy, who was hiding behind a pile of ore containers. She's going to get us out of here. Your mom is insane, Amy replied, but she was smiling for the first time in 3 days. The situation changed when hegemony security ships arrived from the outer system. 3 heavy cruisers and a dozen fighter craft surrounded the mining facility. Linda's cargo ship was no match for that kind of firepower. Commander Vexcor's voice came over the speakers, triumphant. Human female, you are surrounded. Surrender now and face trial for terrorism, or be destroyed along with everyone in this facility. Linda looked at her scanner. The security fleet was positioning itself to attack. She had maybe 5 minutes before they opened fire, but she wasn't done yet. She still had the biggest explosives saved for last, and she knew exactly where to put them. The asteroid's core contained a rich vein of unstable minerals that the miners had been carefully avoiding. If she could trigger a chain reaction in that deposit, the entire asteroid would break apart, that it would be dangerous for everyone inside. But it might be their only chance to escape. Linda keyed the microphone one more time. Commander Vexcor, you've got 30 seconds to start evacuating workers to the escape pods, or I'm going to turn this entire asteroid into space dust. And just so you know, I'm not bluffing. I'm a mining engineer, and I know exactly how much explosive it takes to crack a rock this size. She meant every word. The asteroid shook as Linda's final explosives detonated in the core mining chamber. She had calculated the blast perfectly, enough to crack the rock and make everyone think the whole place was about to fall apart, but not enough to actually kill anyone. The artificial gravity failed completely, and chunks of debris floated through the corridors as emergency lights flashed red. Commander Vexcor's voice came over the speakers, no longer arrogant, but filled with panic. All personnel to escape pods immediately. Facility's structural integrity compromised. This is not a drill. Linda smiled grimly as she watched hundreds of enslaved workers float toward the docking bays. The aliens who had been guarding them were too busy trying to save themselves to stop anyone from leaving. Jake and the other human students were among the first to reach the escape pods, but Linda's plan had worked too well. The hegemony security fleet was still out there, and now they had a perfect excuse to destroy everything. She watched her scanner as the warships moved into attack position. All escape pods will be destroyed to prevent contamination spread, announced the fleet commander. Facility loss is acceptable to maintain security protocols. Linda realized with horror that the hegemony was willing to murder hundreds of innocent people to cover up their slavery operation. She opened a channel to broadcast on all frequencies. This is Linda Parker. The hegemony is about to kill hundreds of enslaved workers to hide their crimes. Everyone in this system needs to hear this. These people were forced to work in illegal mining operations. They deserve to live. Her message went out across the entire Tau Ceti system. Trading ships, research stations, and communications relays all received her broadcast. Within minutes, the news was spreading to other star systems through the Galactic Information Network. The hegemony fleet commander tried to jam her signal, but Linda had connected her transmitter to the mining facility's main communication array. The signal was too strong to block completely. Unknown human vessel, cease broadcasting immediately, the fleet commander ordered. You are spreading false information about legitimate business operations. False information? Linda's voice carried her anger across space. I'm looking at 300 people with slave collars around their necks. I recorded everything. The whole galaxy is going to see what you've been doing here. She had been recording everything since she arrived, using her ship's sensors to document the slavery operation. Now she broadcast those recordings along with her message, showing the terrible conditions in the mines and the control collars that kept workers trapped. The response was immediate. Other ships in the system began changing course toward the mining facility. Some were traders who had dealt with the hegemony before and suspected something wasn't right. Others were Federation patrol ships that had been investigating reports of missing workers from multiple species. Captain Zara Kim commanded the Federation patrol ship Defender. She had been tracking reports of disappearances throughout the sector, but hadn't been able to prove anything until now. Linda's broadcast gave her all the evidence she needed. This is Captain Kim of the Federation vessel Defender, she announced on an open channel. All ships are ordered to stand down while we investigate reports of forced labor violations. The Hegemony Fleet Commander responded with weapons fire. The first shots missed the defender, but the message was clear. They weren't going to let anyone interfere with their cover-up. Captain Kim had been in the military for 15 years, but she had never seen anything like what happened next. The human civilian in the cargo ship began giving tactical advice to the escape pods, helping them navigate through the asteroid field while avoiding the hegemony weapons. Pod 7, there's a cruiser moving to intercept you. Change course to bearing 270 and use the big asteroid for cover, Linda called out. Pod 12, your engines are damaged. Pod 15, can you take them in tow? She was coordinating a rescue operation for hundreds of people while flying through a war zone. Her cargo ship had no weapons and barely any shields, but she kept broadcasting instructions and encouragement to the escaped workers. Dr. Ben Rodriguez was aboard one of the research ships that responded to Linda's call. He was a xenobiologist who had spent years studying different alien species. When he heard Linda's broadcast, he immediately recognized several of the languages being spoken by the freed workers. Captain Kim, I'm detecting at least 12 different species among the rescued workers, he reported. Some of them are from worlds that haven't had contact with their home governments for months. These people have been missing for a long time. The situation was getting more complicated by the minute. More ships were arriving in the system, including several hegemony reinforcements. But Linda's broadcast had also attracted attention from unexpected sources. Commander Liu Wei was aboard the Federation Marine transport vessel, Intrepid, when they received Linda's message. He was a career military officer who had fought in 3 interstellar conflicts, but something about this human mother's determination impressed him. Sir, request permission to deploy rescue shuttles, he told his captain. Negative, Commander. We're outnumbered 3-1. This is a job for diplomats, not Marines. Liu Wei watched his screen as Linda continued coordinating the escape pods while dodging weapons fire from ships that outgunned her 1,000-1. She was saving lives, with nothing but courage and stubbornness. With respect, sir, I don't think the hegemony is interested in diplomacy. He was proven right when the hegemony ships opened fire on the escape pods. The first volley destroyed 2 pods completely, killing dozens of innocent workers. The second volley was aimed at Linda's ship. Linda saw the plasma bolts coming and tried to maneuver out of the way, but the Blue Monday was too slow. The shots would have destroyed her ship if Captain Kim hadn't moved the defender into the line of fire, taking the hits on her shields instead. Thanks for the save, Linda called out. Don't mention it, Kim replied, but we need to get you out of here. You've done enough. Not until everyone's safe. Linda continued flying rescue missions, using her knowledge of asteroid mining to find safe paths through the debris field. Her ship's cargo bay was filled with rescued workers, and she was guiding other vessels to pick up the remaining escape pods, but the hegemony fleet was closing in. They had decided that destroying all evidence was more important than following any laws or treaties. Their ships moved to surround the rescue vessels. That's when Commander Liu Wei made a decision that would change his career. He went against direct orders and deployed his Marines to help with the rescue operation. This is Commander Liu Wei of the Federation Marines. Any ship that fires on civilians will be considered hostile. His transport ship wasn't as heavily armed as the hegemony. Cruisers, but it was fast and well defended. More importantly, Liu Wei's action encouraged other Federation ships to join the fight. The battle that followed was unlike anything in the official military textbooks. Linda Parker, a civilian mining engineer, was giving tactical advice to Federation military officers. She knew the asteroid field better than anyone after spending hours flying through it, and her suggestions helped the smaller Federation ships avoid the hegemony's superior firepower. Commander Liu, there's a gap in their formation. At grid reference 47. If you can get through there, you can hit their command ship from behind. How do you know that? Liu Wei asked. I've been watching them for 3 hours. Their commander keeps his ship in the same position. Military types are predictable. Liu Wei followed her advice and managed to disable the hegemony command ships. Main weapons. Captain Kim used the distraction to rescue the last group of escape pods. Dr. Rodriguez had been busy during the battle, interviewing the rescued workers and documenting their stories. What he found was worse than anyone had imagined. The hegemony had been kidnapping people from across the galaxy for years, using them as slave labor in dozens of illegal mining operations. Linda, you need to hear this, he called over the radio. These people aren't just from the Tau Ceti system. Some of them have been missing for over a year. This operation is much bigger than we thought. Linda felt a chill run through her. How much bigger? At least 15 star systems. Maybe more. The workers I've interviewed say there are facilities, like this one, all over hegemony space. The full scope of what she had uncovered was starting to sink in. Linda had come here to rescue her son, but she had accidentally exposed the largest slavery operation in the galaxy. Jake was safe now, aboard one of the Federation ships, but hundreds of other people were still trapped in similar facilities. The hegemony forces were retreating, but their commander sent one final message before jumping to hyperspace. This incident will not be forgotten. The human female has interfered with legitimate hegemony business. There will be consequences. Captain Kim moved her ship alongside the Blue Monday. Linda, I need to talk to you. What you've done here today is going to change everything. The Federation has been looking for evidence of hegemony crimes for years, and you just handed it to us. I just wanted my son back, Linda replied. I know, but you've done something much more important than that. You've given hope to thousands of people who thought they were forgotten. 3 months after the Tau Ceti incident, Linda Parker sat in what used to be the Hegemony Administrative Center on Kepler Station, staring at a pile of documents she didn't understand. The papers were written in 7 different languages, all asking her to make decisions about things like trade routes, planetary mining rights, and diplomatic treaties. She just wanted to go home. Mom, you have another meeting in 10 minutes, Jake said, walking into the office with a steaming cup of coffee. At 17, he had grown taller and more serious since their adventure in the asteroid field. The other rescued workers treated him like royalty, calling him the human prince and asking his opinion on everything. What meeting? Linda asked, rubbing her tired eyes. The Vorthan delegation wants to discuss joining the Free Systems Alliance. Dr. Rodriguez thinks it's important because they control 3 major shipping routes. Linda sighed. The Free Systems Alliance. That's what people were calling the 3-star systems that had declared independence from the hegemony after her broadcast exposed their crimes. She hadn't asked to lead anything, but somehow she had become the person everyone turned to when they needed decisions made. It had started small. After the rescue at Tau Ceti, the freed workers had nowhere to go. Their home worlds either couldn't be contacted or didn't want them back after months of being missing. Captain Kim had suggested taking them to Kepler Station, a trading post on the edge of Federation space. But when they arrived, they found the station in chaos. The hegemony administrators had fled, taking most of the money and leaving behind angry workers who hadn't been paid in weeks. The station's power was failing. The life support systems were breaking down, and nobody was in charge. Linda had looked around at the mess and done what came naturally to her. She started fixing things. Okay, first we need to get the power grid stable, she had told Commander Liu Wei, who had followed them to Kepler Station with a small group of Federation Marines. Then we fix the air recyclers before everyone suffocates. After that, we figure out how to feed 3,000 people. It should have been a temporary solution, just until the Federation could send proper administrators. But word spread quickly about the human woman who had taken down a hegemony, slavery operation, and was now rebuilding their abandoned stations. More ships arrived every day. Some carried refugees from other hegemony facilities that had been shut down. Others brought traders who had heard that Kepler Station was under new management and actually paid fair prices for goods. A few carried representatives from small planets that were tired of hegemony taxes and wanted to join whatever Linda was building. Dr. Rodriguez had been essential in those early weeks. His knowledge of different alien species helped Linda understand the complex mix of beings who were now looking to her for leadership. He translated languages, explained cultural differences, and helped her avoid accidentally insulting important visitors. The Xanthari value efficiency above all else, he would explain before a meeting. Don't waste time with small talk. Just tell them what you want and what you're offering in return. Captain Kim had officially resigned from the Federation Navy to help coordinate security for the growing alliance. She claimed it was because she was tired of military bureaucracy, but Linda suspected it had more to do with the Federation's slow response to the slavery crisis. The Federation Council is still debating whether to formally condemn the hegemony, Kim had told her. They're worried about disrupting trade relationships. Meanwhile, you've already freed thousands of people and given them a place to rebuild their lives. Commander Liu Wei had also left the Federation military, bringing several of his best Marines with him. He said Linda's practical approach to problem solving was more effective than anything he had learned in 20 years of military service. In the academy, they teach you to plan for every possible outcome, he explained to Jake one day. Your mother just looks at what needs to be done and does it. It's simple, but it works. The Free Systems Alliance now controlled Kepler Station, the mining facilities in the Tau City system, and New Harmony, an agricultural world that had voted to leave the hegemony after their governor was caught selling food supplies while people starved. Linda had never intended to rule anything. She just kept solving problems as they came up, and somehow that had turned into running 3-star systems. The Vorthan delegation was waiting in the main conference room when Linda arrived. They were tall, elegant beings with blue skin and silver hair, known throughout the galaxy for their diplomatic skills. Their leader, Ambassador Veltar, stood when Linda entered. Coordinator Parker, we thank you for agreeing to meet with us. Linda still wasn't comfortable with the title Coordinator, but it was better than some of the other names people had suggested. Please, just call me Linda. What can I do for you? We wish to discuss our people's desire to join your alliance. The Vorthan Republic has grown tired of hegemony interference in our internal affairs. Your approach to governance interests us greatly. What approach? Linda asked. I don't have an approach. I just try to treat everyone fairly and fix things when they break. Veltar exchanged glances with his assistants. Yes, exactly. You govern by solving practical problems rather than enforcing ideological theories. You treat all species as equals rather than ranking them by military or economic power. This is unusual in galactic politics. Dr. Rodriguez, who was sitting beside Linda, leaned forward. Ambassador, what specifically would the Vorthan Republic bring to the Alliance? We control the shipping routes between the Outer Rim and the core worlds. We also have significant manufacturing capabilities and a fleet of merchant vessels. In exchange for membership, we would ask only for protection from hegemony retaliation and a voice in Alliance decisions. Linda looked at the star charts projected on the conference table. Adding the Vorthan Republic would double the size of the Alliance and give them control over some of the galaxy's most important trade routes. It would also make them a much bigger target for hegemony attacks. What does your government think? About joining us? She asked. Our parliament voted unanimously. The hegemony has been demanding higher tribute payments while providing less protection. Last month, they allowed pirates to attack our convoys because we refused to give them exclusive mining rights on Vorthen Prime. Jake, who had been quietly taking notes in the corner, spoke up. What kind of protection would you need from us? Veltar turned to look at the young man. Your reputation precedes you, Prince Jake. We have heard that you serve as an ambassador between species. Jake blushed. I'm not a prince. I just help translate when people from different worlds don't understand each other. The title is not about bloodlines, Veltar explained. It is about respect. Your mother's actions have given hope to countless beings throughout the galaxy. You carry that legacy. Linda watched her son handle the diplomatic conversation with skill that surprised her. Jake had always been good with people, but the events of the past few months had turned him into something special. He understood things about alien cultures. That took most humans years to learn. After the Vorthens left, Linda walked to the observation deck that overlooked Kepler Station's main docking area. Dozens of ships from different worlds were loading and unloading cargo. Workers from a dozen species moved through the corridors, talking and laughing together in ways that would have been impossible under hegemony rule. Captain Kim joined her. At the railing, the Federation Council sent another message. They want to meet with you about formalizing relationships between the Alliance and Federation space. Let me guess. They want to tell me how to run things. Probably. But they're also nervous. What you've built here is working better than their own colonies. Trade is up, crime is down, and people actually seem happy. That makes Federation politicians uncomfortable. Linda watched a group of young beings from different species playing some kind of game in the station's central plaza. Jake was among them, laughing as he tried to explain human sports to his new friends. Zara, I never wanted any of this. I just wanted to get my son back and go home. I know. But look around you. These people needed someone who cared more about doing what's right than following rules. You gave them that. The hegemony isn't going to let this continue. They've lost too much territory and too much face to just ignore us. Captain Kim nodded. Grimly. Our intelligence reports say they're massing a fleet in the Beta Centauri system. At least 50 ships, including some of their newest heavy cruisers. They're planning something big. Linda felt the familiar weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. All these people were counting on her to protect them, but she was just a mining engineer who had gotten in over her head. How long do we have? Maybe a month, maybe less. The good news is that other worlds are watching what happens here. If the hegemony attacks civilian targets, it might finally push the Federation to take action. And if they don't? Kim was quiet. For a moment. Then we fight with what we have. The Alliance fleet has grown to about 20 ships, mostly converted civilian vessels. Not much against 50 hegemony warships, but we have advantages they don't expect. Such as, we have you? And after what happened at Tau Ceti, they know that underestimating a determined human is a dangerous mistake. The hegemony war fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system like an approaching storm. 57 ships, including their newest battle cruisers, and enough firepower to crack planets. Admiral Krivok commanded the fleet. From his flagship, the Vengeance of Order, and his orders were simple: destroy the human rebellion and everyone who supported it. Linda Parker stood on the bridge of her command ship, the New Hope, watching the enemy fleet arrange itself for attack. Her own forces looked tiny by comparison. 23 ships, most of them converted cargo haulers and civilian transports with weapons bolted on wherever they would fit. They're taking their time, observed Captain Kim, who was coordinating the defense fleet communications. Probably trying to intimidate us. Is it working? asked Jake, who had insisted on staying aboard his mother's ship, despite her attempts to send him somewhere safe. Linda smiled at her son. A little. But being scared doesn't mean you give up. It means you think harder about how to win. Commander Liu Wei was studying the tactical display with Dr. Rodriguez, who had become surprisingly good at military strategy over the past few months. Their formation is classic hegemony doctrine, Liu Wei reported. Heavy ships in the center, fast attackers on the flanks. They'll try to break our line with overwhelming force. What they don't know, Linda said quietly, is that we're not planning to fight them. The communication board lit up with an incoming message from the hegemony flagship. Admiral Krivok's reptilian face appeared on the screen, his eyes cold with hatred. Human terrorist Linda Parker. You have illegally seized hegemony territory and murdered hegemony citizens. Surrender immediately and submit to justice, or watch everyone who follows you die. Linda stepped forward to respond. Admiral Krivok, I'm Linda Parker, coordinator of the Free Systems Alliance. I'd like to invite you and your senior officers to dinner aboard my ship. The silence on both bridges was complete. Even Jake stared at his mother in amazement. Did you just invite them to dinner? Krivok finally asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Yes, I think we should talk before anyone starts shooting. My son Jake has been learning to cook food from different worlds. He's gotten pretty good at it. What do you say? Admiral Krivok looked like someone had just asked him to dance instead of fight. This is a war fleet, human female. We are here to destroy you, not share meals. I know. But think about it for a minute. You've got 57 ships full of soldiers who have been traveling for weeks to get here. They're probably tired, hungry, and wondering if this fight is really worth it. Meanwhile, my people are defending their homes and families. Even if you win, it's going to cost you a lot of ships and a lot of lives. Linda paused, letting that sink in. Or you could come to dinner. We could talk about this like reasonable beings, and maybe find a solution that doesn't involve anyone dying today. Dr. Rodriguez whispered, Linda, what are you doing? Something my husband used to say, she replied softly. The best way to solve a problem is to sit down and talk it through over a good meal. Admiral Krivok was clearly struggling with the concept. In 40 years of military service, no one had ever invited him to dinner in the middle of a battle formation. If this is some human trick, no tricks, Linda assured him. Just dinner and conversation. You can bring as many officers as you want. My ship isn't armed with anything that could threaten your fleet. What's the worst that could happen? You have a bad meal and then destroy us anyway. On the hegemony flagship, Admiral Krivok's officers were looking at each other in confusion. This was not how wars were supposed to start. Admiral, said his tactical officer, this could be an opportunity to assess their defenses up close. Or it could be a trap, replied his security chief. Krivok studied Linda's face on the screen. She looked tired but determined, like someone who had been pushed too far and was ready to fight, but would prefer not to. More importantly, she looked honest. Very well, Human Parker. I will bring 5 officers. If this is treachery, your death will be particularly unpleasant. Understood. Docking Bay 2 is open for your shuttle. 2 hours later, Admiral Krivok and his officers sat around a table in the New Hope's dining hall, eating a meal prepared by Jake and several other young beings from different species. The food was simple but good. Roasted vegetables from Vorthen farms, protein from New Harmony livestock, and bread baked fresh in the ship's galley. Jake served the meal himself, explaining each dish and asking the hegemony officers about their own homeworlds and favorite foods. It was impossible to stay hostile toward a polite teenager who was genuinely interested in learning about alien cultures. This bread is excellent, admitted Commander Thex Rao, Krivok's second in command. What grain is used? It's actually a mixture, Jake explained. Earth wheat, Vorthen seed grain, and something called blue moss that grows on asteroid stations. The freed workers from different worlds shared their recipes, and we combined them. Dr. Rodriguez had arranged for several of the former slaves to attend the dinner, representing different species that had been rescued from hegemony facilities. They told their stories simply and honestly, without drama or accusations, just explaining what their lives had been like under hegemony rule. Admiral KidHFY found himself listening to a Zentari engineer named Delver, who had been kidnapped from a research station and forced to work in the mines for 8 months. "I do not hate you," Delver said quietly. "Hate serves no purpose, but I cannot return to that life. Here, I use my skills to help build something better. My children will grow up free." "Your children?" KidHFY asked. "Born here on Kepler Station. The first generation of citizens in the Free Systems Alliance. They know no hatred between species, only cooperation." Linda had stayed quiet through most of the meal, letting her guests see for themselves what the Alliance had built. Finally, Admiral KidHFY turned to her. "Human Parker, what is it you truly want? You could have ruled these systems as a conqueror, but instead you govern through cooperation. You could have built a military to threaten the hegemony, but instead you focus on trade and cultural exchange. I do not understand your goals." Linda looked around the table at the faces watching her. Hegemony officers, former slaves, her own son, and the friends who had helped her build something she never intended to create. "Admiral, I just want my son to grow up in a galaxy where beings treat each other fairly, where a mother doesn't have to steal a spaceship and blow up asteroids to save her child from slavery, where people can work together instead of fighting over who gets to be in charge." She leaned forward, her voice growing stronger. "The hegemony has been ruling through fear and force for generations. Has it made anyone happy? Has it solved any real problems? Or has it just created more suffering while a few people get rich?" Admiral KidHFY was quiet for a long moment. "The hegemony maintains order. Without strong leadership, there would be chaos." "Look around you," Linda said. "Do you see chaos? These are the same people the hegemony called inferior and worthless. They're running 3-star systems better than your government ever did. Crime is down, trade is up, and nobody is being enslaved." Commander Thexruel spoke up. "The economic reports from the free systems have been impressive. Production efficiency has increased 30% since the transition, because people work harder when they're working for themselves instead of for masters who don't care about them," Captain Kim added. The conversation continued for hours. Admiral KidHFY and his officers asked detailed questions about how the Alliance functioned, how disputes were resolved, and how they planned to defend themselves. Linda answered honestly, even admitting to mistakes and problems they hadn't solved yet. As the evening progressed, something unexpected happened. The hegemony officers began offering suggestions for improvements, sharing their own experiences with administration and logistics. Despite representing opposing sides in a war, they found themselves having a productive discussion about governance and cooperation. Finally, Admiral KidHFY stood up. "Human Parker, you have given me much to consider. I came here expecting to fight a war against terrorists and rebels. Instead, I find this." He gestured around the room. A grandmother teaching children from 6 different species to read together. Engineers from former enemy worlds working side by side. Traders who pay fair prices and keep honest books. Linda stood as well. "Admiral, you don't have to fight us. Your fleet could go home. Tell the hegemony leadership that the free systems Alliance isn't a threat to them. We're an alternative to them. People should have the right to choose how they want to live. And if the hegemony refuses to recognize your independence, then we'll defend ourselves. But we'd rather spend our energy building something good than destroying something bad." Admiral Krivak looked at his officers, then back at Linda. I need to consult with my superiors. This situation is not what we were prepared for. Take all the time you need. Your fleet is welcome to resupply here while you're deciding. We have good food, comfortable quarters, and some excellent entertainment programs that Jake and his friends have put together. 3 days later, Admiral Krivak announced that the Hegemony fleet would be withdrawing from the system.